Hello all, and welcome to an introduction of Azure Cloud uh, Computing. In this course, we will try to cover the basic fundamentals of Azure Cloud. This is based on the resource available for completing the AZ 900 course, which is Azure 900 fundamental course. So the topics covered here will cover at least the basic knowledge of what is required to complete this exam. So we will be covering a host of topics. This is the first set of videos, and we will cover more topics in the upcoming videos. In terms of what we will be covering in this module is an introduction to cloud computing. We will see what is cloud computing, what is the advantages using Microsoft Azure cloud computing. Uh, we have so many cloud providers, so what is the cloud providers we need to choose, and what are the things we need to keep in mind to choose these cloud providers. We will also look at different types of deployments on cloud, mainly the public cloud, private cloud, and hybrid cloud. We will see what are the advantages of these models, what are the disadvantages of these models, and which one is the best model to go for based on our business requirements. We'll also cover the cloud computing models, which is infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and serverless computing. We will also see what is the difference between capital expenditure and operational expenditure. We will also look into the Azure global infrastructure itself. What are the different regions they have? What is the region and what are Azure zones? And how do we implement these? We will also see how to interact with Azure Cloud Platform, and we will end this module by summarizing what we have learned and also a couple of exam tips and tricks. To start with, what is Azure? Microsoft Azure is an ever expanding set of cloud services to help you and your organization meet business challenges. It is the freedom to build, manage, and deploy applications on a massive global network using your favorite tools and framework. This is the definition given by Microsoft. So, what are the key advantages of moving to Azure Cloud? So, it is future ready, so you can make sure or you are ensured that the infrastructure and the scale is available for you to meet your business requirement, and you can scale the requirements in a matter of minutes when required. There are a lot of open source support and languages and different frameworks which are available for your teams to work on it. So there are a lot of resources already available and a lot of coding which is already done for you, so you do not have to spend so much of time on finding the solutions for problems you might have. And if you already have an existing on-premises cloud, on-premises hardware, so that means you can seamlessly integrate it with the Azure cloud. So we will see how do we do it and what are the advantages and disadvantages in the upcoming slides. We'll also, security is the key factor of Microsoft Azure, and they promise world-class security. Uh, and they also comply to different country laws and different government compliances, which is maintained and updated by Microsoft Azure. So, what is cloud computing? So, the practice of using a network of remote servers hosted on the internet to store, manage, and produce data rather than your local servers or a personal computer, right? So that is basically the explanation of definition of cloud computing. So instead of having resources on a local premises or on your personal servers or laptops, you can have this on cloud. So that means it is maintained by someone else. So you just have to, you can just run and make use of those resources and only pay for the resources you use. Right. So this benefits in having faster innovation. Your resources are flexible. So you let's say you need additional storage this month, which you might not require. So you don't have to buy a hardware per se. You just only pay for the resources you use. Cloud computing is the delivery of computing services, uh, including servers, storage, database, networking, software, analytics, and intelligence over the internet. This offers faster innovation, flexible resources. There is an economy of scale. You only pay for the cloud services you use, helping lower your operating cost. Uh, and you can run your infrastructure more efficiently and scale scale up or down as your business needs changes. So some of the benefits of cloud computing, you it eliminates the capital expense of buying hardware and software, and also setting up and running on-site data centers. So you need to have racks of servers, you need to have around the clock electricity and power to run these servers, and also you need the equipment for cooling and maintaining the data center, uh, and also you need to have the IT experts for managing this infrastructure. So all these are the uh, cost you would incur if you are maintaining on-premises data center. So all this can be eliminated by moving to cloud because you're only paying for the service, so you need not spend a huge amount of upfront cost when you are choosing cloud. Speed is also one of the key things which will be covered because if let's say if you have a lot of inflow of data or you have a lot of customers which are visiting your site, so in a matter of minutes we can increase the resources which are provisioned to them, and this gives you a lot of flexibility and takes the pressure out of capacity planning. Scaling is another key component here to look at. So that means you're delivering the right amount of IT resources. For example, the computing power, storage, bandwidth is there when it's needed. And when your business is global, you can see from where the traffic is coming, and you can move your resources accordingly to make it uh, more efficient to work with. Productivity also increases because you are not typically looking at a lot of hardware setup, or you need not focus on updating, which could be time consuming, and also you would need a lot of IT personnel to maintain it. So this thing is also a key benefit of moving to cloud. Performance, again, uh, it is very scalable in the sense can increase performance if you need more power. In terms of more computing power, you can scale it in a matter of minutes. You can place the regions in specific regions closer to your customers. So that means you are reducing the network latency and ensure that uh, the latency is reduced and there is a greater economy of scale. Reliability again is one of the key benefits. You can make multiple backups. You can make multiple backup across regions. You can have disaster recovery. And also you can have multiple redundant sites spanned across the globe to ensure there is no data loss. Security again is one of the foremost and most important things. So you have a lot of layered security which is available in Azure, and you can ensure your data is protected, and also your infrastructure is also protected from potential threats. What are the uses of computing? You can use it to create a native cloud application. For example, if you are developing a web or mobile app, or you can take your resources and place it in the cloud. You also have a greater storage backup and recover data available. You can have your data spread across various cloud storage systems, and you can access it from any device. You have special services where you can stream audio and video, which are meant to deal with huge amounts of audio and video. So there are special services which we'll look at in the upcoming slides. You can have software on demand. So we have something called as software as a service, wherein you don't have to worry about implementing things. So you just subscribe for this service, and you will be able to use it anytime around the globe. So you would not have faced any challenges there. In terms of test and building, so you can use real-time cloud infrastructure there for your apps. Data analysis is a huge thing wherein there is a lot of services provided to you, and lot of AI, and this will help you in giving more insights, which gives you an opportunity to improve your performance overall. So your data analysis improves, and you also have embedded intelligence. So that means based on how your customers interact, it will give you valuable insights from the data it is capturing by using Azure Cloud. So when you are using Azure Cloud, you do not need to make a large upfront investment in terms of hardware, and spend a lot of time on provisioning this hardware as well. You can exactly choose what is the right type and size of computing resources, and what is the power you need to run these resources and services. And also you can, in a matter of minutes, employ or deploy thousands of servers if you need, and also scale it down instantly, and you only pay for what you use. So how do you choose a service provider? So there are four key aspects which we need to look into when we are saying which service provider we need to go to. One is business health and process, administration support, technical capabilities and process, and security practices they follow. Right? Let us go a little bit in depth. So what are business health and process? For example, what is the financial health of the organization you are going to invest so much money and your trust on your data on, which is very critical. You would also need what is the governance plan and risk management they have. How can you trust this particular company? And business knowledge of this company, experience and technical know-how. And also in terms of compliance, what are the different compliance, global compliance and regional compliance they follow? Are they having audits on time to ensure all the compliance needs are met? So these are some of the things you need to keep in mind. And The other thing you would need to know is in terms of support, what are the different SLAs, so the service level agreements they promise you, and how comfortable are you with it, depending on the cost they're offering to achieve this SLA. What is the kind of reporting they will provide you? What is the in-depth reporting they give you, and how can you use those reports? Resource management and configuration management in terms of what is the detailed level of controls you have to track and monitor your services, and how easily can you make the changes to the system. So that is something you need to consider. Billing and accounting. So this is how your cost is billed. Can you monitor it? Can you make sure your billing is, if you want to keep it at a certain amount, how easily can you do it, and how accessible it is. So those are some of the key things you need to keep in mind when you look into administrative support. In terms of technical capability and process, how easy it is for you to deploy, manage, and upgrade. Uh, what is the interfaces they provide in terms of, let's say, integration and monitor and management. How do they handle event management? And in terms of logging requests, approving, testing, and accepting changes. This is something we need to consider as well. And what is the hybrid capability as well? So even if you do not plan to use the hybrid cloud initially, you should make sure the provider can support this model. This has an advantage you may wish to explore in the later time. So this is something you need to consider. The provider should have documented and formal rigor process requesting, logging, approving, and texting and accepting changes. So you need to make sure you consider all these key things in terms of technical capability and process. Security and practices, very key thing in today's world. So you need to ensure they have a comprehensive security infrastructure for all types of cloud services they provide. What are their security policies, and how in depth can you control access and to your APIs and also to your customer systems. Identity management in terms of changing the applications or hardware components should be authorized, and do they have group-based role processes, so it is easier for you to assign policies and identity management for the different teams you have. Data backup and restoration, and how much would you pay for it, and how is it, and how secure is it in terms of backing up your data and data retention. Physical security as well. So when we say it is cloud, so that means there are servers in a physical location. So it is the responsibility of the cloud provider to provide this physical security control. So we need to ensure they have documented disaster recovery and business continuity plans. So moving on to cloud deployment modes. So there are basically three uh, different cloud deployment modules. One is the public cloud, one is the private and the hybrid cloud. So and sorry, three different ones: public, private, and hybrid. So public cloud is defined as a computing service offered by third-party providers over the public internet, making them available to anyone who wants to use or purchase them. They may be free or sold on demand, allowing customers to only pay per use of the CPU cycles, storage, or bandwidth they consume. Unlike private clouds, public clouds can save company from expensive cost of having to purchase and manage on-premises hardware and applications and infrastructures. The cloud service provider is held responsible for all management and maintenance of the system. Public cloud can also be deployed faster than an on-premise infrastructure, and with this almost infinitely scalable platform. Every employee of a company can access uh, uh, this particular public cloud. Let me just remove the pointer here. So private cloud is defined as a computing service offered earlier either over the internet or a private internet network, and also to select users instead of general public. Also called as an internal or corporate cloud. Private cloud computing gives business many benefits of a public cloud, including self-service, where you are responsible for scalability and elasticity, with additional control and customization available from dedicated resources over computing infrastructure hosted on premises. In addition, private clouds deliver higher level of security and privacy through both company firewalls and internal hosting to ensure operations and sensitive data are not accessible to third party providers. One of the drawbacks is that your IT company department is held responsible for the cost and accountability for managing private clouds. So private clouds require the same requires the same staffing, management, maintenance, expenses as the traditional data center owns. The two modules for cloud services can be delivered in private cloud. One is infrastructure as a service, allows the company to use infrastructure resources such as to compute, network, storage, and services. And the second one is platform as a service, which lets your company to deliver everything from a single cloud based on application and sophisticated enabled enterprise applications. Right. So hybrid cloud is nothing but a combination of your public cloud and private cloud. So that means you are making use of your existing resources where you have already have a data center. Then you can opt for a combination of both private cloud and public cloud, and you can have a sync between those two, or you can decide some of the data is more secure, I can have it locally or on premises, so you can shift to public cloud later in the time as and when required, right? So it totally depends on what your current on premise infrastructure facility is, where is your data stored, and where you want your data to be stored, and where is your app running, or where do you want your app to benefit, or to run, which would be more efficient for you. So these are the little things you need to keep in mind when choosing different types of cloud deployment. In terms of public cloud, so let's say you choose Azure to go for public cloud. So it is completely owned by Microsoft. Every hardware, including servers and storage, are delivered uh, through the internet. You The benefits of using public cloud is it is pay as you go pricing. There is no hardware maintenance costs or updates. It is elastic, agile, and highly scalable and adaptable, and you can go and deploy this in minutes, right? You don't have to go buy hardware, you don't have to find people to maintain this for you. It is already available, you can deploy this in minutes. In terms of the drawbacks of going to a public cloud, you do not have 100% flexibility over hardware. So that means you can say like, these are my requirements, and Microsoft will assign the hardware for you, so you don't have 100% flexibility or hardware. So one of the challenge could be you have you're running on an older or specific hardware, or you have some of the platforms which requires a specific hardware which might not be available for you as an option when you offer a public cloud. In terms of data center location, you have various regions to choose from, but you're looking for a particular region in terms of legal constraints that might not be possible as of now. And also security standards, even though it's a very high standard, if you have a particular very stringent but security needs for your cloud deployment or for your data, that might not be possible in public cloud. Private cloud, as I told you, is all it is a traditional or a non-premise resource which is uh, which is uh, on your physical location, and you might use some of the management tools like VMware, Hyper-V, or OpenStack. Advantages: it is 100% in your control. It meets the strict security compliance and require legal requirements. You can accommodate your legacy apps, and you have full flexibility over the desired configuration because everything is completely owned by you. Hybrid, again, is a combination of both public and private clouds. You get a great flexibility, so you can run apps both in public and uh, private clouds. You can use on-premise servers in order to meet the security compliance and strict regulations. You continue to run apps of out-of-date services, hardware, and redesign is possible for running on the cloud. What are the disadvantages of hybrid cloud? It is related to on-premises cloud deployment. You need specialized IT personnel to maintain your on-premises hardware. The money and the pricing model becomes a little complicated because you're opting both public and private cloud, and there is a large upfront investment or a potential large upfront investment if you don't already have the resources you need for your on-premises hardware requirements. So just a summary again, a public cloud is you where you do not own any hardware, everything is on the cloud. Private cloud is exclusively for your use when you are maintaining the hardware, the network, and the security by your organization. Hybrid cloud is a combination of public and private cloud, so it is more flexible in terms of deployment options. So it will meet your stringent security and infrastructure needs as well. So moving on, we look at what are the different computing models. So one is infrastructure as a service. Then you have a platform as a service, and you have software as a service, and you also have something called as serverless computing. Uh, so what are the key differences between them? It is the flexibility as management. Where do you want the ownership of the tasks to be? What is the pricing model of these things? And how you can use these services to address your different business needs. So infrastructure of a service is the most basic one of cloud computing, where you rent infrastructure, servers, and virtual machines, operational systems from the cloud services provider on a pay-as-you-go basis. Platform as a service is refers to cloud computing services that supply on-demand environment for developing, testing, and delivering software applications. PaaS is designed to make it easier for developers to quickly create web or mobile apps without worrying about setting up or managing the underlying infrastructure, storage, network, and database needs for development. Software as a service is a method of delivering software applications over the internet on demand, and it is typically at a subscription basis. With software as a service, a cloud provider hosts and manages the software applications, the underlying infrastructure, and handle any maintenance like software upgrades, the security patching, user connect to applications over the internet, usually with a web browser on their phone or tablet or PC. So you just subscribe and everything else is maintained by the cloud service provider. Serverless computing is overlapping with product as a service. Uh, Serverless computing focus on building app functions without spending time on continuously managing the server infrastructure required to do so. The cloud provider handles setup, capacity planning, server management for you. Serverless architectures are highly scalable and event driven, only using resources when a specific function or a trigger occurs. Right. So those are the key differences between infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, and serverless computing. So examples of infrastructure of a service. So you literally rent the IT infrastructure. So for example, you need virtual machine storage, network, and operating systems. So you just hire this for a period of time and you only pay it as you make use of them. So on a pay as you go service. So this is the highest level of flexibility because everything, including the IT infrastructure, the server management, storage network, everything is managed. If you go at prod platform as a service, it is an on-demand environment for developing, testing, and delivering and managing software applications. It is mostly used by developers to uh, quickly create web or mobile apps. So you already know what your needs are. So you can just select a platform which the underlying infrastructure, storage, network, database, etc., is all managed by the cloud service provider. Software as a service is a method wherein you just pay for using the subscription of the software, for example, Gmail, or you can say Outlook 365, or if you're using Microsoft Link. So these are the examples of software as a services where you do not have to worry about how it is maintained, what is the underlying infrastructure. You just only think about how you will use this app. So let us look at the advantages of Azure Cloud Computing. First, Azure is cost effective. How is it cost effective? Because it offers you pay as you go model in pricing, also known as the consumption based model pricing. So you don't have to pay upfront cost. You do not have to pay for resources which you do not use, and you you don't have to manage infrastructure, or you don't have to you know go to purchase and manage typical hardware for you. So Azure Cloud can be very cost effective. It is scalable, so that means you can use it as and when your business grows. So you can choose it, either I want to scale it manually or automatically. You can adapt scaling by either vertically or horizontally. So vertical scaling is where let's say you have a virtual machine of 2 GB RAM and 250 GB hard disk space. So you say I want to go for an 8 GB RAM and 1 TB hard disk space using the same virtual machine. So that is known as vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling is when you deploy the same one, like for example, the first one you had was a 2 GB RAM and 256 hard disk space. So as your need increases, you just duplicate that. So you will add one more machine of the same one. So this is the most preferred method because you can easily descale as well when your business needs changes. Azure Cloud is elastic. So what does that mean? So as and when you have uh, uh, the increase in demand, you can quickly scale by add or removing resources. Azure Cloud is current, so that means Microsoft takes care to make sure all the drivers are up to date and all on most current and recommended hardware and software version. They are responsible for software upgrades and hardware upgrades. They are responsible to replace faulty equipment, and everything is transparent to you. Azure Cloud is global, so that means in a matter of minutes, it is easily you can easily deploy your applications across regions in the world with just a few clicks. This means that you can provide lower latency, better experience for your customers at a minimal cost. Azure has a global infrastructure. We will see more in detail about this in the upcoming slide. Azure Cloud is secure. So what does that mean? Azure is Microsoft Azure is responsible to enforce strict security policies at both the physical layer and the digital layer. Azure Cloud is responsible to secure the local data centers, ensure they have the webcams, the cameras, the CCTVs set up there. They have physical locks and security personnel to take care of physical security. When we talk about digital security, Azure provides access to resources on the cloud to only allow across users to have access to the data. Azure Cloud is reliable, so that means they provide a lot of fault tolerance and also provide data redundancy. So this will ensure there is no lack or loss of data. Azure cloud infrastructure is built in order to accommodate disasters. So if one component fails, the backup component will seamlessly take ownership, ensuring service availability. Data in your Azure storage account is replicated to ensure durability and high availability. Uh, so this ensures that the data is safe and it is reliable and you have access to it when it is required. So let us look at the capital expenditure versus operation expenditure, and let us see what is economies of scale. Capital expenditure is spending of money on physical infrastructure upfront and then detecting this expense from your tax billing over time. Capital expenditure is an upfront cost which has a value that reduces over time and usually has no recurring cost. Deploying your own data center and Azure Resort VM instances, these are few of the examples of capital expenditures. What are the pros of capital expenditure? You plan your expenses and you know these are the expenditure I'm spending for this year, but you might have to buy some more as your business increases, or you might be paying for some unused resource if your business reduces or if you're not making use for those resources. Operational expenditure is money on services or products you are being billed for your use. You can detect this on your taxes. The same here. You pay as you go for making use of the services. The major pro of this service is the demand and growth can be unpredicted. and and outpace expectation, which is a challenge for capital expenditure, where you would have to buy physical hardware, but in operational expenditure, you can quickly deploy resources. So that is a key benefit. So let us look at your capital expenditure, operational expenditure, and how Azure helps you to save costs. So for example, you have this is your demand for resources, the black line, where you see it is not stable, it keeps going up and down. And if you have to meet this demand, you will have to uh, have capital expenditure here. So let's say you're deploying your servers or virtual machines here, and you come around this time and you see that you have your demand is increasing, or you see an increase in demand. So you'll have to again invest on these servers. And again, let us see your demand increases again. So again, you will say, I will invest more virtual machines and servers. But then if the demand increases than what you had predicted, so that means you will not be able to meet this demand here. The other one, so to meet this demand, you again buy some virtual machines and servers. But then if the demand decreases, you are losing your money there, or the infrastructure is unused where you already spent the money on those demands. But if you look at Azure Auto Scaled, it moves up and down based on your demand needs. So you end up saving a lot of cost here. And also here, when you're not using those resources, so you are not spending that cost. So that is the benefit for shifting to an OpEx model, or pay as you go model, where you only pay for the resources you use. If you don't use those resources, you're not paying for them. So this is a huge benefit of operational expenditure over capital expenditure. Let's look at economies of scale. Economic of scale is the ability to do uh, things more efficiently or at a lower cost per unit when operating at a larger scale. That is the ability to acquire hardware at a lower cost if a single user or smaller businesses were able to purchasing it. Cloud providers can also make deals with the local government and utilities and get tax savings, lower pricing on cooling, and higher speed network between sites. Uh, for example, you are a small company, so you need to pay more because you are using lesser resources. But when you move to cloud, you are dividing that cost with a larger operation. So that means by scaling up the resources, you are getting more benefits. So you can achieve lower variable cost uh, than by using cloud than what you can do on your own. uh, the usage of the customers is aggregated in cloud. The providers such as Azure can provide high economies of scales, which translate to lower pay-as-you-go prices. Look into Azure global regions and availability zones. So Azure global infrastructures are divided into a couple of blocks, which are Azure regions, availability zones, geographies, and regional pairs. So let us see what these are. So what are Azure regions? So region is a set of data center which is divided with the latency defined parameter and connected through a low latency network. With more global regions than any other cloud provider, Azure gives customers the flexibility to deploy applications where they need to. Azure is generally available in 53 regions around the world, with plans announced for 8 additional regions. So they have close to uh, 80 regions overall in some time. Azure has more global regions than any other cloud provider, offering the scale need to bring application closer to users around the world, preserving data redundancy and offering comprehensive compliance and resiliency options for the customers. So when you are setting up a virtual machine on the region, you have an option to choose where you want to set up this uh, region, and you can also set up a redundancy if required. You can set it up in two different regions to ensure if one of the regions goes down or not accessible for any reason. So this is available. So that is the key thing. So the key thing to remember is Azure region is uh, a dedicated region with a low latency network setup between them. So what is an Azure data center? So data center is it has a rack of servers, networking, storage, security, and balances, etc., which is set up in these data centers. Uh, while setting up the data center, you need to keep a couple of things in mind. One is performance. You should select the data center which is closer to you. You will have to see the cost. The cost of the choosing the data center, it depends on where it is placed. The prices will vary based on the hosting location and the service used by the application. And also, you will have to look at the legal aspects. So, if there is some data which requires to be in some geographical restrictions, so this is also something you need to consider while setting up the data center. So this is the data centers or the global Azure regions available across the globe. So you have a lot of available regions in the US. You have a lot of them in Europe. You have one in South Brazil. You have a couple of them in Australia, a couple of them in India. You have a lot in, let's say, China, Japan, and Korea as well. The dotted ones are the upcoming ones. So you have one of them coming up in Qatar here as shown. And we will talk about availability zones. So wherein within a region you would have uh, uh, you know couple of data centers for you to choose from. So not every region has it. We will see what are availability zones and how you can make use of it overall. So Azure region is available in 140 countries, and you can. It has up to two government secret in an undisclosed location, which is known as Azure Government Region, which is undisclosed and is used for global use. Right. So moving on. What is geography? Geography is a discrete market typically containing two or more Azure regions that preserves the data residency and compliance boundaries. Geographies allow customers with specific data residency compliance needs to keep their data and application close. Geographies are fault tolerant to withstand complete region failure through their connection to high dedicated capacity network infrastructure. So that is Azure geographies. What are availability zones? These are very critical. So availability zones are physically separated location within an Azure region. Each availability zone is made up of one or more dedicated data centers equipped with independent power, cooling, and networking. Uh, Availability zones allow customers to run mission critical applications with high availability and low latency. So if you see, if you take Western Europe as an example, you have three availability zones there. Let's call it AZ1, AZ2, and AZ3. So what happens is when you deploy these virtual machines in a scale set of this availability zone, even if one of the availability zone goes down or one of the data center goes down for any of the region, you still have this data and you will be able to access it, or your customers will be able to access it in different availability zones, right? So since these three are independent with the let's say cooling, power, and networks, you will be able to access it without any issues. So if we look at the different availability zones available, we have in West US, Central US, and in Europe, Southeast Asia, and in Japan. So let us look at what are region pairs. Uh, what if an Azure region goes down? So this is when you can pair two different regions. So these are at least 300 miles apart. So the chances of these going down would be almost nil. So this can help you in providing business continuity and disaster recovery. So you can pair Northern Europe with Western Europe. You have different set up redundant machines in two different regions. So this will ensure your business continuity. So let us see an example here. So we have a region one and region two. So your data is in these two regions. So you can have these data paired within region one into different availability zones. So these are again physically separated with different power, network, and cooling. So if something happens within this region, so it can access data from the region, different availability zones here. But what if this entire region goes down? Then you have this already available in region two as well. So when you pair these two regions, you are ensuring there is high availability, disaster recovery, and backup. So let us see how to interact with the cloud platform. Azure provides multiple options in order to interact with Azure Cloud Platform. So you have Azure Portal, you have Azure CLI or Azure Command Line Interface, you have Azure PowerShell, Azure Cloud Shell, you have Azure SDK, and Azure Mobile Apps. Let us look into what is Azure Portal. Azure Portal is a web-based unified console that provides an alternative to command-based tools. With the Azure portal, you can manage your Azure subscription using a graphical user interface. So it has a GUI built in, so it is easier. If you're not into in-depth coding, you can build, manage, monitor everything from simple web app to complex cloud deployments, create customer dashboards for an organized view of resources, configure accessibility options for optimal experience. Azure Portal is designed for resiliency and continuous availability. It has uh, presence in every Azure data center. This configuration makes Azure Portal resilient to individual data center failures and avoid network slowdowns being close to users. Azure Portal updates continuously and requires no downtime for maintenance and for maintenance activity. So the link for Azure Portal is portal.azure.com. So this is how the Azure portal looks like. So it is very easy for you. It is like using any other mobile app per se. You can just create the resource you want. So there is no command line interface required for you to deploy or implement anything. On the left side, you have all the resource, or you can just click on create a resource and search for a resource, and you can implement almost everything you need through Azure portal. So if you want to implement a virtual machine, if you want to create a storage across, if you want to use a database, or you want to get into create a dashboard for yourself, or you need to monitor something. So almost everything can be handled by Azure portal. So let's look into what is Azure ClearLine and command interface. So Azure CLI is a set of commands used to create and manage Azure resources. Azure CLI is available across Azure services and is designed to get you working quickly with Azure with an emphasis on automation. The key characteristics of CLI is capabilities making it easy to work with different programming languages. Uh, you can install Azure CLIs in Windows, Mac OS, and Linux environments. You can also be running in Docker and Azure Cloud Shell, which offers you flexibility when managing Azure solutions. Support log, long running operations. Uh, it has the ability to use one subscription for all commands, or vary subscriptions for commands, allows for querying command line query output returned in the format of your choice. So it's basically very flexible, and you can make use of this and implement lot of automations as well using CLI. Let us look at what is Azure Cloud Shell. Uh, so by using Azure Cloud Shell, you can basically access virtually from any location, from anywhere in the world. Azure Cloud Shell using an authenticated browser shell experience that is hosted on the cloud and is accessible from virtually anywhere. Azure Cloud Shell is assigned for unique user account and automatically authenticated for each session. It gets a modern CLI experience from multiple applications. So you can use it from Azure portal, you can use it from share.azure.com, you can use the Azure mobile app. So you have different choices on how you can access Azure Cloud Shell. And it basically you can work with the PowerShell Cloud Shell modules. You can use a PowerShell as well. You can create and edit files with PowerShell editor. Let us look at Azure SDKs. So Azure SDKs are a collection of programming libraries. They help you build applications that manage and interact with Azure services. So you have a lot of SDKs to, depending on how you want to use it. You have SDKs API for Java, for PHP, Python, Microsoft.NET, and also TypeScript or JavaScript. So you have a lot of different libraries which are available. So you can just use them to interact with Azure services and also to manage them. Again, Azure mobile app is available for both Apple and Android in the Play Store. So based on your needs, you can use them to monitor health and status. You can also run Azure Cloud Shell and run commands and manage your resources. And it can be quickly used to diagnose and fix issues no matter where you are. Okay, so those were the key concepts. Let us just quickly run through the summary. So what is cloud computing? Cloud computing is a delivery of computing services, including servers, storage, databases, networking, and analytics and intelligence over the internet. It is more flexible, it is faster, and there is an economy of scale. Cloud computing really represents renting of services. So basically, you just go and pay for the resources you use. So that is known as pay as you go model. What are the different models? One is public, private, and hybrid. So what are the things you need to choose? Where are these data stores? Do I need to go for a public one or the private one? Do I really have a current on-premises data centers? How can I incorporate it uh, and make use of it? And where do I need to run my app? So hybrid is basically combination of both private and public cloud. We use different types of computing models: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Infrastructure of the as a service gives you most flexibility and management. Platform as a service, where you know what your let's say app needs are, you can opt for platform as a service. Software as a service is the one which requires least amount of management. You just need to see how to use them. Everything else is taken care by the cloud service provider. Advantages of cloud computing or Azure cloud in specific: it is cost effective, it is scalable, it is elastic, it is current, it is global, it is secure, and it is reliable. Capital versus operational. Capital expenditure is when you spend the money upfront. The value is reduced over time, and it is a huge upfront cost for the company. Operational expenditure is there is no upfront cost. You just pay as you use, and the tax deduction for that is in the same year because you are using it the same year. You are paying for it in the same year, so your the tax benefits you get is also for the same year. Economies of scale. So it is the ability to operate more efficiently or at a lower scale when operating or more at a lower cost when operating at a larger scale. By using Azure cloud computing, you can achieve lower scale variable cost than you can get on your own. And by switching to pay as you go model, you can achieve higher economies of scale. Azure Global Infrastructure Regions and Availability Zones. So Azure region is a set of data center deployed within a latency defined parameter and connected through a dedicated low latency network. Geography is a discrete market typically containing two or more regions that preserves data residency and compliance boundaries. Availability zones are physically separate data centers within a regions with independent power, network, and cooling. Different types of management interfaces we saw: portal, command line interface, cloud shell, SDKs, and mobile apps. So those are the key concepts of Azure cloud computing. So if you have more questions, please post it down in the comments. I'll try to answer them. We will also come up with different upcoming videos which are required to cover AZ Fundamental 900 examinations and also other videos to help us learn. So please subscribe if you are looking for more videos, and make sure you share this as well if you find it useful. So thank you very much for watching this video.